Okay, so my name is McNevin, and my area of expertise is genetics. So I'm able to unlock the mystery, the mix of DNA that's in us all, that we inherit from our parents and our grandparents, as is depicted on the slide on this screen here. So I want to start by talking about the Innocence Project in the US. You may well be aware of it. It's a group of people who do pro bono work to overturn wrongful convictions. And of the 342 exonerations secured by the Innocence Project in the US, 70% of them have involved eyewitness identification as the cause of wrongful conviction, later overturned by DNA testing. That's 70% of those people have spent years in jail or on death row. DNA has the potential to provide a much more accurate description of the donor of a DNA sample, whether that be from a crime scene or from an individual from the general public. So what are we going to do in our laboratory? Well, we are able to do this already. We can take a DNA swab from an individual or from a crime scene. We then amplify genetic targets that we know are very good for predicting ancestry, and we sequence them using our sequencer that we have in our laboratory. And that's pretty standard practice. A lot of labs can do that. What we do well, and I think this is our niche, is that we've developed algorithms for predicting the ancestry of an individual based on their DNA. And that's illustrated in this slide here, where each dot represents an individual colour-coded according to their ancestry. And you can see that there are clusters of colours representing Europeans, Africans, Americans, Oceanians, South Asians, etc. So our target market, well, first of all, we're going to look at DNA forensic investigators. That includes police services like the Australian Federal Police here in Canberra, with whom we have a very good relationship, as well as police services in other states, and intelligence services such as ASIO, ASIS and Border Force. But once that's established, we also want to offer this service to the general public, because I'm sure there are people here in this room who are very interested in their genetic ancestry and where they came from. And so we'll be able to offer the same service to you. Why would forensic investigators come to us and not rely on their own DNA labs? Well, firstly, because forensic labs produce DNA profiles for identity, not for ancestry. That is, they want to be able to tell a court that a suspect is the source of DNA found at a crime scene. We want to provide more information than that, because if there is no match to a suspect, that's a dead end. We're offering a service for intelligence purposes. So we're going to help police before they find that suspect, to lead them to a suspect so they can take that suspect to court. And we're also more agile. We're a research laboratory. We're able to incorporate new genetic markers as they're discovered quickly and easily into our assays. Now, why would the general public come to us instead of a service provider like Ancestry.com or 23andMe, who do offer this service? Well, firstly, we're local. We do this in Australia. If you send your DNA to Ancestry.com, you lose the protection of Australian privacy laws. They become subject to US privacy laws, which are not as strict. We use a different technology. We only look at specific markers that tell you about ancestry. If you send your DNA to another provider, they will uncover a whole myriad of genetic attributes, including your medical health and predisposition towards disease, which is vulnerable if you send it to another country where Australian privacy laws don't exist. We're also a forensic lab at a university. We hope that will give us a reputational advantage. And we have expertise developed over many years of research into this field. So we have published research where we have already established a methodology for sequencing genetic markers. And we've also published research where we have the ability to predict ancestry based on those genetic targets. What about the future? Well, we have already discovered genetic markers are associated with other traits like fingerprints and also hair curliness, and we all hope to add other traits like eye colour, hair colour, freckling, male pattern baldness, etc. So I want to try and paint a picture for you now of what I think where the future lies in this field. So imagine that we find DNA at a crime scene. Traditionally, that would produce a DNA profile that would be used to match a suspect to a crime scene sample, but there's no match. And there's no database hits. That would normally be a dead end. But now, what we might be able to do in the very near future is generate a fingerprint pattern from the DNA donor and a facial metrics to describe their face. Those that is called a molecular photo fit in genetic speak. We could then interrogate fingerprint databases as well as DNA databases to extend the scope of our search and perhaps obtain a match that way. And then finally, we'll be able to update that profile to border crossings and airports around the world so we can pick out a face on CCTV and perhaps apprehend somebody who might have got away with a crime otherwise.